I've seen over 100 Portuguese films, which is not special, but I just had to have a hook on this video. I got a comment on my last video, which was my How Could I Could Change My Life video, which was my first video, of someone asking me to recommend some Portuguese films as an introduction. So I decided to make this starter pack. I'm gonna try not to be long, I'm gonna try to be quick. So I picked 6 films, accessible films. This person said they're not ready to get into complicated films. So I try to pick something a little bit more accessible. Now, this video, I want it to be a starter pack for everyone. The problem with that is that I would recommend very different movies, depending if you're, for example, a foreigner who's already really into global cinema, and for example, for a Portuguese person who is just curious about their culture, but they're not the biggest cinephile. So on this list, what I did was I picked 6 directors. They're not my 6 favorite directors, but I picked six directors and I chose their most accessible films. And these are films that I think are a great introduction to Portuguese cinema. They were my introduction, most of them, to Portuguese cinema, which means I've seen them a long time ago, which means I don't have that great of a recollection of them, besides the fact that I really enjoyed them. The first film I have on the list is actually this one, which is not my favorite Manoel de Oliveira film, not even by a land mile, but it is his most accessible. It's a film he made during the dictatorship Portugal was in, I think 1942. It's kind of this European kind of film about children, you know. I mean, if you think about like 400 Blows, Bicycle Thieves, it's not as deep. It doesn't go as, far. It's just an endearing story about children, about kind of the shame we felt as kids for doing something wrong that we thought was right at the time or whatever. It's a sweet film. It's a short feature-length film. It has, I think, 1 hour and 10 minutes. So I think there's no way to not enjoy this film. I'd say even if you're not used to older films, you're gonna enjoy this film. Now, other Manoel de Oliveira films I'd recommend are Val Abrão, Abraham's Valley. To me, maybe his best. It's kind of this 3 hour long dialogue-filled movie about femininity, about desire, based on a novel. He also has Benilde or The Virgin Mother, Benilde ou Virgem Mãe. Just tons of films. The thing about Manoel de Oliveira is you can't go wrong with him. Whatever you watch, you'll probably have a good time. So just I guess go with the thing seems more interesting to you. Now, obviously, this is a good entry point, even though it's not the craziest. It doesn't really say that much about the style he would develop later. And obviously during the dictatorship there was a lot of censorship, artistic censorship, and this film is kind of a result of that. It has a special place in my heart for being one of the first I've seen. It's in Porto as well, which is the city he was born in. Okay, next director. I'm taking too long. The next film I have on the list is by Paulo Rocha, who is one of my favorite Portuguese directors, one of the, if not my favorite, I think the director that I relate with the most when it comes to his style of filmmaking, his philosophy on cinema. Now, Manoel de Oliveira, he's very prolific. He's the oldest ever working director of all time. He made tons of films, tons of great films, but Paulo Rocha, but he had a kind of this philosophy on cinema that he believed that cinema and theater were not that far from each other. And so he kind of made some of his movies like plays. So when it comes to acting, when it comes to sets, stuff like that, makes for a very interesting filmography, but is not the way I look at cinema, which is great, which is just like, it's great that there are different voices, you know what I mean? If everyone was a Paulo Rocha, we wouldn't have the genius of Manoel de Oliveira. Now, Paulo Rocha, the film I picked is Green Years, Os Verdes Anos. Again, not my favorite from his, but I think it's the best introduction. It's a romance. Again, I've seen it a long time ago. I remember it being a little bit about some social pressures in the air, for a young man. Another film he has that I love even more, that I'd say is also kind of accessible, is Change of Life, Mudar de Vida. Now, both of these films were scored by Carlos Paredes, who is a great Portuguese guitarist, and in my opinion, the greatest film composer from Portugal ever. I mean, if you know the song Canção Verdes Anos, if you're from Portugal and you don't live under a rock, you probably know it. It was made for the film. And Mudar de Vida was made for Mudar de Vida, you know? So, incredible music on those films, incredible stories. Yeah, I do love them. And then he took a big hiatus and made his most ambitious film that I've seen, at least, which is Ilha dos Amores, or Islands of Love. Island of Love. He went to Japan, stayed there for years. It's a biopic about a Portuguese writer who lived in Japan. And it's just like one of the most ambitious films I've ever seen, you know? I mean, if I were to compare it to something, you know, maybe Tarkovsky, but not as abstract. That one is one of my favorite films of all time. And so is like Change of Life and other films that I've talked about also. So yeah, that's the Paulo Rocha film. Now my next one, I'm gonna go with a João César Monteiro film, Recollections of the Yellow House, Recordações da Casa Amarela, which is the first in a trilogy, I think. The other ones are God's Comedy, Comédia de Deus, and As Bodas de Deus, which I don't remember the name of in English. Another great film, again, not my favorite from him. I would say it's the best introduction to him, especially if you're Portuguese. My favorite might be Silvestre, which is a story about a young woman who pretends to be a man in order to go to war with a young Maria de Medeiros. If you're a foreigner, I think I'd recommend A Flor do Mar. Maybe, if you like, Luca Guadagnino, you know, and kind of this European kind of beauty. I think A Flor do Mar is a good recommendation. And okay, Recordações da Casa Amarela, Recollections of the Yellow House. This trilogy is a comedy, but it's not a laugh out loud comedy, I wouldn't say. It's more of a comedy in genre about this perverted old man who João César Monteiro plays. Now, at first glance, it might seem like the reason he wrote this character is because he is a creepy old man, but, you know, I wouldn't say that's the case. Maybe he has a little bit of it in him, but it's a character that he wrote for a reason. You know, he's not as unintentional as it might seem on a first watch. And the only reason I'm saying this is because the first time I watched these films, I thought, this guy's kind of weird. And then he also has Come and Go, Vai Vem, which is kind of his swan song, his last film that I also love. And he does mention his character on the trilogy, the character he plays on the trilogy on this film, Come and Go. The character's name is João de Deus, I think. So I guess Come and Go is also is in the same world as these other films on the trilogy, although he plays a different character. Okay, now my next film and by the way, the only reason I decided to make this video is because there was too much I wanted to say, too much context I wanted to give, and I couldn't do it in a comment, so I just decided to make this video. Also, I don't know if I mentioned this, but if you found my channel through my Quadeca video, I will be making a review of Vanisher, a very special review soon. It's gonna tie into the movie I'm making, and I hope I can bring some stuff that I haven't seen anyone talk about when it comes to the album. So yeah. Now my next film on the list is Taboo, which is a Miguel Gomes film. So I wanted to pick a modern film. If you're more, I guess, used to modern cinema, maybe this is a better gateway into Portuguese cinema. Yeah, this is my favorite Miguel Gomes film. I've seen it a long time ago, so I can't give you the best synopsis, but just go search for it. It is great. He has other films I also love, but I'm not as crazy about his filmography as these other directors, if I'm honest. And by the way, this is not the only great film coming out this century. There are other fucking incredible. I think there's a lot more great stuff coming out right now than ever, maybe, in Portuguese cinema. You know, even if the highs aren't as high, you know. Then my next film on the list is a Pedro Costa film, who is, again, one of my favorite directors. He has a more poetic kind of cinema, but the film I chose for an introduction is O Sangue, or Blood, which is his first film. It kind of has a little bit of this Paulo Rocha style, sorry. It's a little bit more dark. It has a needle drop that I love. I also got the vinyl. Damn, I should have brought it. Wait, I'm gonna bring it. Yeah, there's a great fucking needle drop on this film, in my opinion. Yeah, Pedro Costa, man, he is special. I mean, when it comes to living Portuguese directors, he's definitely my favorite. He also has a lot of acclaim outside of Portugal. So yeah, if you like, I don't know, Belatar, Tarkovsky, um, watch his films. Again, Usang is not that. Usang is a much more, I'd say, simple maybe. Not that it doesn't go, you know, to some great places, but it's just not what he's doing now. The his first film is very different from the stuff that he went on to make later. Usang is one of my favorites from him, if not my favorite. Another one that is also one of my favorites, if not my favorite, is In Wanda's Room, No Quarto da Wanda. I mean, that is not as accessible, but if you like this kind of cinema, this kind of slow cinema, it impacts you, in my opinion. It's about drug use, from what I remember. Yeah, and not only drug use, but everything surrounding it in a person's life, including their house. I mean, yeah. That one is fucking great. That one, in my opinion, is the best Portuguese film from the 21st century so far. So yeah, Pedro Costa, he's a good one. I mean, another great fucking film he made, Vitalino Varela. Just watch anything by him. There's some stuff I haven't seen yet, but he's fucking great. Yeah, and I think now last we got to the end. Fuck, 18 minutes. Okay, I wanted to do it faster, but all right. Last film I picked is from a director I've only seen one film from, and it's already one of my favorite films of all time. He's not Portuguese, but he found his voice in Portugal. His name is Raúl Ruiz. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly because he's not from Portugal. He's from Chile. And the film I'm talking about is Manuel's Destinies. If you want an introduction to, I guess, more complex films, the reason I'm using the word complex is because the person making the comment said, I'm not really ready to watch more complex films. So, this film has a lot more abstract elements. If you like David Lynch, I'll definitely recommend this film. It is ambitious. It is about all the choices we could have made in life, and other things, It goes some places. It's about a child called Manuel. The name of the film is Manuel's Destinies, or Manuel in the island of, I don't know. There's a couple. This film has a couple names, a couple different versions. It has the TV show version. It has the Portuguese version, the French version, different names. And unfortunately, it needs a remaster. It's in deep need of a remaster, and not only need, but also it deserves a fucking remaster. Like, it's fucking time. It's not it's not a classic in the sense of, when people talk about Portuguese cinema, they talk about this movie. But that's just because it's kind of not talked about. It should be talked about. It is great. So if you're interested in watching something a little bit more, with some more abstract elements, this is one of my favorite Portuguese films of all time. If not my favorite. It's great, and I'm very interested. This is a new discovery for me, so I'm very excited to watch his other films. I want to also recommend some places to find Portuguese cinema, because this starter pack is nothing. This starter pack is not enough, okay? There's a lot of fucking dope stuff, okay? This is an even more recent discovery for me. The Rate Your Music film section. If you search by country, you know what I mean? If you go Portugal in the Rate Your Music film section, it's a great, solid fucking list. Solid fucking list right there. Now, I found out about this way later, way after having seen over 100 films. So when I found it, I didn't use it to discover films, but I looked at it and I'm like, okay, this is fucking the best I've seen so far, the best list I've seen so far. Yeah, and another place that I also really recommend is a Letterboxd account called Portuguese Cinema, which I might link in the description, especially for like more recent, more newer stuff. I usually tend to agree with the scores, with the reviews. I think the person running this account has great taste. So the reason people don't go watch Portuguese cinema on theaters is because, you know, the reason people are not interested is because of, in my opinion, a big reason is a lack of curation. They don't know what to watch. They don't know what's gonna be good. They go watch one once and they're like, "This was ass," so I guess everything is ass. So I'm not gonna risk it ever, and I'm never gonna watch a Portuguese film again. But there's so much good stuff, especially now. So follow that account if you wanna make sure you don't miss anything. Yeah. Did I say everything? I know I didn't. One thing I would like to start doing is at the end of every video, kind of pull a lunch and just do like the song of the day is, and just do like a song at the end of every video. Every video. Fuck, bro. I had an idea for a song, but I just realized I should pick a Portuguese song. But okay, I'm gonna go with Queixa das Almas Jovens Censuradas by José Maria Branco. Is the song I'm gonna go with today. Yeah, it's the first one. So yeah, I will one day be making a top 100 Portuguese films of all time list, which is something a lot more special and serious, and I'm gonna try harder than this. So this is just a collection. 6 films. That's it. Collection of films.